Hey, so recently I made a video about Ken Walker and how I hated his butts, because I'm funny like that. And I got a comment actually asking for more videos like that. I didn't have any more Ken Walker takes, so I thought if I just did a quick walkthrough of who DLF consensus is fading the most versus ADP, and then looked at my own ranks, bringing up the value sheet again in my ranks. Yeah, that might be something similar. So something I do in my ranking sheet is I look. Whoa, okay, that was a lot. Is I do a logarithmic formula because I'm fancy like that to look at who ADP, myself, and also DLF consensus is fading and targeting heavily relative to the most recent ADP. So if you look at the hate section in the top 100 picks, the player that DLF is most likely to trade away or not want to trade for is actually Kenny Pickett. That's the same with my own ranks as well. Josh Allen is also hated by DLF consensus because everyone still wants to draft Mahomes as wide receiver 1, except me. For some reason, now I get to be the Josh Allen truther again. But quarterbacks are a little bit not probably the content you're looking for. So if we remove them, what we see is that Stefon Diggs, Austin Eckler, and Saquon Barkley are actually the lowest rated relative to how highly they're drafted at DLF consensus. DLF consensus, the average is having Saquon Barkley as a running back 4 overall, and in ADP he's the second running back taken. I disagree with DLF consensus on this one. Saquon Barkley is a very good running back 2 to take, probably being taken too highly. I would disagree on that format, but running back 2 is fine. Austin Eckler is perfectly understandable when you get a group of Dynasty nerds together. They're not going to like that Austin Eckler is 27 years old and undrafted still because they have that kind of bias. I think it's interesting they still rank Mark Andrews as a tight end 2, whereas in ADP, he's a tight end 1 going right now. Consensus is unwilling to put Kyle Pitts above actually players who've already won seasons for them. And DLF consensus just young Dynasty nerds want young Dynasty player like Kyle Pitts, and that actually probably opens up our value window on Kyle Pitts more than anything else. After that, you've got Derrick Henry, which is no surprise. I thought T. Higgins is interesting, in that DLF consensus has him as wide receiver 14, whereas overall in the average draft, he's been taken as a top 10 wide receiver. So if you like T. Higgins, you might want to send some trade offers on him, because if they're as sharp as DLF consensus, and I'm in that, so they're not that sharp, there might be a potential that you like them more than the person rostering them. If you look at DLF consensus, if you have T. Higgins and want to trust us idiots, it might be a good time to try and trade him away, because we are somewhat lower on him than players who are currently drafting them inside the top 10. I'm somewhat neutral on it. Speaking of which, Brandon Ayuk shouldn't be on this list. DLF consensus has him ranked as a top 35 wide receiver. Nah, I'm not about that at all. Brandon Ayuk should be a top 24 wide receiver. I think ADP is getting that one right, and our consensus is getting that one wrong. But let's look at my ranks versus ADP, just to show you some of the ways I differ from ADP, and we can also then do DLF consensus, I guess, if we want to be exceptionally toxic towards my fellow crew. I guess that's a terrible way of saying it. Let's look at the top 100 picks again. As I've already mentioned to you, I also want nothing to do with rostering Kenny Pickett. If we take the quarterbacks out, you see that this is why I made a video on Ken Walker. He's the player I'm least likely to draft where he's being drafted. I have him 40% below when you look at the logarithmic formula. And then DLF consensus. I'm part of the hatred toward Austin Eckler. I apologize. James Cook, I just forgot that guy was in the NFL for a minute. And no shade to James Cook, but if there's still value in James Cook, I'd be interested in trading it away. I also am fading Derrick Henry, and also all running backs, it seems. Dalvin Cook, Ramondre Stevenson, who I think I might have to rise up a little bit, but I just don't want running backs this time of year. You see Travis Etienne is not far behind. But the 2 wide receivers that show up are Stefon Diggs, which I hate myself for, but I have him ranked as a wide receiver 11 by ADP. He's been drafted as a wide receiver 4. And I just can't make up that difference in this era of NFL production. If you've got Stefon Diggs, there's no need to panic trade him away, but if I have him, I am more likely to trade him away than I am to keep him at this point, which is a very sad day for me. DeAndre Hopkins, as well, but that's more just Dynasty age. I'm Team Old Guy, okay, but I still have a Dynasty heart, and it happens. Alright, let's go check out how I am compared to my fellow rankers, as opposed to just ADP. ADP at DLF, by the way, is based on like a 6 mock sample that we run regularly every month. Sign up for those drafts. Follow Ryan McDowell. He's quite often asking people to join those mocks, so if you want to be in the group of people dictating what ADP is on DLF, it's pretty easy to do, and it's also fun. In the off season, there's not much else going on. Instead of just adding more leagues, you can actually, you know, get involved in a mock draft that idiots like me are going to be talking about. Alright, so if you look at me versus consensus, I'm not only far lower on Kenneth Walker than ADP, I'm also far lower on Kenneth Walker than my fellow rankers. So this hatred is real, and again, that's probably why I made a video. I'm also lower on all those same running backs. DLF consensus is higher on running backs because they like points. I just don't, I guess. I just don't like running backs. Similar methodology for what I laid out in that Kenneth Walker video, by the way. And again, James Cook, I'm surprised. I am actually much lower on Travis Etienne versus DLF consensus than ADP, which is kind of... That's interesting, because the logic I was running through in the Kenneth Walker videos, how people are overvaluing age, might be Dynasty nerds or DLF rankers that I'm reacting to more than consensus ADP, because the nerds, the rankers have him higher enough that I'm actually lower compared to them than I am compared to ADP. I think the rankers have Travis Etienne too high. Anyone else that shows up interesting? I should probably change my Jerry Jeudy rank. Having me outside the top 30 is probably wrong. And I do not like being uncomfortably low on AJ Brown. I have him ranked as a wide receiver 3. Consensus has him ranked as a wide receiver 3, but I draft him overall 12th. And he's going off the board at 9th. So I'm not going to end up with a lot of AJ Brown in startups unless I modify that value, which I will think about. Tyreek Hill and Mike Williams show up. Mike Williams has been on the "you're too low on them" list, according to my DLF rankings notes, literally just forever. And I don't see that turning around at age 28. Mike Williams has more points than he is value, and he has been for a minute. But if you're looking for a productive running back, I get it, but I just think there are better prospects for improving a dynasty roster overall, and so I have him ranked outside the top 40 wide receivers at this point, whereas inside the top 40 for DLF consensus, because, you know, they've probably got a level ahead. I just insist on being lower. And Tyreek Hill is another age argument. When I can have Jalen Waddle in the top 12, why would I have Tyreek Hill? I have him ranked still as a top 10 wide receiver, but I fade youth and production, and you've got several right now who already fit that category. Don't have the ceiling of Tyreek Hill every year, but we're running out of years where the value is going to keep up with that ceiling. And so, again, out a year earlier rather than a year later. So a few tweaks that I have to do in my own ranks, especially Jerry Jeudy's probably actually more of a buy than a sell. But yeah, there's a quick look at who I am fading more than most Dynasty rankers, and who most Dynasty rankers are fading more than ADP, which could be an insight into what kind of trades you can go looking for in your leagues. Thought it might be interesting, and I want to do some more quick hitting videos just because I realize I haven't been keeping up the volume lately. Let me know what you think. You can see my ranking sheet on my Patreon anytime. It's got the ADP, it's got the rookie ADP, it's got my ranks in Superflex and my rookie ranks, and all my notes and stuff. And yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks very much.